So after watching this show last night, here I'm thinking, okay, this will be a good rivalry. A guy that the fans love and the guy the fans just love to hate. Perfect combination, TNA. Very well done. And you'll see what I mean on this review of TNA Impact Wrestling's Final Resolution. Alright, so despite the fact that this show was a predictable episode of TNA top to bottom, TNA always delivers a good show every week, and I thought this was a great show as well. And I'm going to start with the opening segment. It was Magnus coming out cutting a promo where he starts off by saying that he loves the business, loves the wrestling business, traveling 100 miles from state to state, country to country, and working, the working class kind of guy, the honor, dignity, and respectful kind of guy. And he also talked about how power and money corrupts. He says he's not a guy that doesn't want the fancy cars, the women, and the helicopters, etc., etc. And so he goes on about, like I said, being the guy that's honorable, who has dignity, and who has respect for the business. And he also questioned about Jeff Hardy's motives based on what happened before the show went off the air last week when he met Dixie Carter in the VIP area of Dixie's restaurant, something like that. And he basically told Hardy that you owe me an explanation. Jeff Hardy came back and says, I don't owe anyone any explanations. And we heard from Sting as well later on in the show backstage, talking to Jeff Hardy, said that Jeff Hardy owes his creatures, his fans, an explanation to what he's doing. And there's a lot of focus on the show with Jeff Hardy questioning his motives, and there's less focus on Magnus. And I'm wondering, is Magnus turning heel? Now, I'm going to ask that question again in this review as I go on. And going back to that first segment, Hardy talked about him not being that greedy guy, but Magnus planting the seeds of him being a sellout, referencing the 10-10-10, which was a smart thing on the part of Magnus. You want to remind the audience of what happened as well. And there's always that old saying, predicting the future behavior of past behavior, something like that. Really comes into play when it comes to questioning Jeff Hardy, planting that seed of doubt. And I think that, they told the story pretty well on the first segment between Magnus and Jeff Hardy. And it also has a little bit of a mystery as well, because even though, like I said, this show was predictable, you sometimes don't know what may or may not happen. So once I get into the main event, you'll see what I mean. After that, we saw the Kurt Angle versus Bobby Roode 2 out of 3 falls match, and I really like the overall flow of TNA Impact Final Resolution. They hit us with a big promo, and then after that they come in with a big match. I thought that was a great way to really create that good flow for the show. And case in point, having the Kurt Angle and Bobby Roode match, the first match on the show, 2 out of 3 falls. And what happened was that Bobby Roode got the first fall by low blowing Kurt Angle when the referee was not looking, and his finishing maneuver. And then after that, Kurt Angle got the quick roll up, and Bobby Roode got the third fall when he cheated. He used the ropes. And what I liked about this 2 out of 3 falls match, it was really well constructed. It was a singles match for the first fall, a good few minutes. It was a good 7 or 8 minute match. And then the second fall happened. It was quick. Kurt Angle got it. And when we got to between that and the third fall, it was another singles match. So I like how that 2 out of 3 falls played out. Singles match, quick match, singles match. That's how a 2 out of 3 falls match should be constructed, and TNA delivered. However, I thought that this match was not the best Kurt Angle and Bobby Roode match. I think that their first 2 matches were a little bit better than this 2 out of 3 falls match. But with that being said, I think this match was still a really good match. It was a good wrestling clinic, to say the least, and I don't know if this is going to continue their feud, because the way it ended was Kurt Angle upset over not winning, and his pride not letting him telling Kurt Angle that he got beat. And, so there's going to be some sort of story with him. I don't know if they're going to involve Bobby Roode, but we'll see what happens next week and the week after that, weeks to come on TNA. Also, we saw a segment I thought was quite entertaining, to say the least. It was Eric Young, and he came out, and you saw gifts in the ring, and this is all going to lead up to, something that's going to happen next week. What happened was that Eric Young came out. There was a table, looked like a cheap table, probably because they're on the budget, and there was wrapping gifts, for Joseph Park to open. And he wanted, Joseph Park to come out and remind him of who he is. He told Joseph Park that he is Abyss. I'm going to remind you now, open up these presents. The first one he opens was a steel chair. The next one he opens was thumbtacks, and the third one he opens was barbed wire. And basically what this segment was about was that Eric Young was wanting to get Joseph Park to face Bad Influence, Kaz and Daniels, in a Monsters Ball match, but Joseph Park declined because that was his brother's. That was his brother's match, and we all know who Joseph Park is. He's Abyss. So he kept declining twice this match with Bad Influence that Eric Young delivered to Joseph Park. But then that moment where Eric Young said, I have one more present for you, and it's underneath the ring, and when Joseph Park took out Janice, that big long piece of stick with the nails attached to it, to all remind us of 10-10-10, those days of Abyss. I thought that was really, really interesting. The look on Joseph Park's face reminded him of what that thing was. We got to see a little bit of that Abyss side to Joseph Park. I think they played out the psychology of that segment very well. Joseph Park, I think, delivers great facial expressions when it comes to the psychology aspect of in-ring performances. And I think that next week we'll get to see Abyss show up and clean house on Bad Influence. Also, we saw the Feast or Fire briefcase winners. Now, before I get into that, we saw backstage where Chavo Guerrero and Zima Ion with Jimmy Borash, they planted the seed of Zima Ion, Chavo Guerrero planting the seed of Zima Ion being fired from TNA, getting the pink slip, and odds are the reverse is going to happen. That looks a little bit too predictable, right? And we also saw James Storm and Gunner come in. They were about to go in the room. They saw Jimmy Borash, they talked a bit. And they also planned to see of Gunner being fired or Gunner getting lucky. And then we also saw EC3 as well with Jimmy Borash, and said that, if I'm going to get the pink slip, I'm going to be rehired anyway. He talks to Dixie Carter on his phone. We can hear Dixie Carter on the other end, and basically told Ethan Carter that there's nothing I could do if you get the pink slip. What happened? Well, the first person to open his briefcase was Zima Ion, and it was the X Division title shot. Called it. The next one to open the briefcase was Gunner. Now this is where it got interesting, because I predicted that he was going to get a world title shot, but the way they interacted before he opened the briefcase, when they were talking about the possibility of Gunner getting a tag team title shot, automatically told me that he's not going to get it. And when he opened it, I was right. Gunner is going to get a World Heavyweight Championship title shot. And the look on James Storm's face really sold that segment. Because after all that, James Storm gave that look of death, like, I'm going to murder you, Gunner, for costing me a chance for the World Heavyweight Championship. And James Storm was nothing short of perfection selling his emotions on screen. Just that look. I really can't get that image out of my head from James Storm giving that look of death to Gunner. I really can't. It's just something that really sticks in my mind after watching that, and that is how good James Storm is when it comes to his psychology. We also saw coming down to Chavo Guerrero and Ethan Carter III. And this is where Sting came in. And he told Ethan Carter III that, give me the briefcase, and I'll give you a chance to face me one-on-one. Ethan Carter, thinking that he's going to get a pink slip, he wanted to avoid Sting in a future one-on-one match. So that was pretty interesting. So that's kind of planting the seed of, is Ethan Carter going to get the pink slip? What happened? Both Chavo Guerrero and Ethan Carter opened up their briefcases in the same time, and you can already tell by looking at Ethan Carter III that he has the tag team title shot. And that's going to be interesting because who is he going to partner up with? Any thoughts? No? Like I said, I think that's a good swerve. And with that being said, Chavo Guerrero, of course, got the pink slip. He's fired. And I thought he sold his reaction pretty well. He sold his emotion when he noticed the pink slip underneath that briefcase. And I think that, when he opened the briefcase, and I think that this is the end of Chavo Guerrero. But also, there's also a possibility of him potentially being a wild card in the Royal Rumble in January in WWE. So you never know what's going to happen. You're never really fired on any wrestling program. It's just a storyline. So we'll see what happens with Chavo Guerrero. And I really like Sting in that segment and the way they used the music. It was very suspenseful. And Sting really putting the pressure on Ethan Carter III, and he declined Sting's offer. I thought that was really tremendous as well. So overall, I really like how this segment was played out, even though I'm nitpicky on where it took place. I would rather see, the Feast or Fire briefcase revealed in the ring and have that deal or no deal kind of feel where you open up the briefcase so the audience could see, so the cameras could see, and then they look around to see what they have. So, something like that I would rather see, but I like the idea of having them backstage and seeing what they have. It's just, when you do it in the ring, you get a more reaction to the fans, and you get to see their reaction when they open up the briefcases, and it would be more effective as well. So I would rather see that than something backstage that is something very important, like Feast or Fire. It's a very important situation these four guys have been put in, and those four, along with Dixie and Jeremy, should have been in the ring, performing, revealing the briefcases when you're inside the ring. Like I said, you get better effects. Also on the show, we saw a tag team match, Knockouts tag team match, ODB versus Madison Rayne. ODB, Madison Rayne versus Gail Kim and Lady Tapa. And, this match was okay. There are some real logic fails. I think that the WWE just flopped, and the more I think about it, the more I'm less on the bandwagon with Madison Rayne back. I'm glad that she's back. A part of me is glad that Madison Rayne is back. She got a new look. And, she tries to get, over with the fans as a babyface. I don't know if it's working because we never got to see an explanation to why she's targeting Gail Kim. And I think that's an issue when you have a superstar come back going after a heel and not gaining an explanation to why you're going after this individual. And I think that would have been a good time to give that reason instead of having a tag team match, to gain interest into building up a future match for the Knockouts Championship. That's just my opinion. So with that being said, they never really sold this match very well. Even though it was a decent Knockouts tag team match, it's just the way they marketed this match. It just wasn't very believable. For one, Madison Rayne came out with her heel music. Logic fail there because I would rather see Madison Rayne come out with different music because she has a different look, a different hair, and she looks better. So why not give her new music instead of her old heel music? That does not make sense at all. Another thing that doesn't make sense is the Knockouts division in general. Why are you bringing back a knockout that's already been there, done that, giving shots that already have Knockouts Championship? 4 times she's been Knockouts Champion, Madison Rayne has, and they bring her back. The logic there is here's the thing. If you want TNA's Knockouts division to grow, you bring in new talent. You bring in fresh talent that we never seen before. Bring back Taylor Hendricks if you have to. Bring back Evelise Perez if you have to. All these other divas knockouts that should be on or not on. And I think it's just, a big fail on the part of TNA, their logic behind Madison Rayne coming back. Because, like I said, it just doesn't resonate with the fans that she's back. When I was watching this match, she hardly got any reaction from the fans. And I think that was weird because she's going after probably one of the best knockouts in any division, and she's a great heel as well. So I really don't understand how Madison Rayne is not getting that reaction when she's bouncing back from another heel when the audience is there watching. I really don't understand that, but overall, this was a decent match, and we'll see where it goes. I'm not really looking forward to this one-on-one match with Gail and Madison because there's no story there. Even though there's history with Gail Kim and Madison Rayne, there's just no story build into why Madison Rayne is going after Gail. And that's what TNA should provide the audience with, is have that explanation to hope she could go over as a babyface in the Knockouts division. That's all I have to say about that part of the show. And the main event was Magnus versus Jeff Hardy in the Dixieland match. And before this match took place, Jeff Hardy came out and he cut the promo before the match. He was really passionate as well. You can tell by the way he's speaking. He was really, showing the audience how passionate he is on the microphone. And I thought he was actually, a little better than last week's promo because he gave a lot more passion. And what he was talking about was that he loves doing what he was doing. He loves being a wrestler. He was telling the world what Magnus was telling us in the beginning of the show. And then after that, Jeff Hardy declines Dixie's offer of all the fancy cars, the money, the glitz, the glamour. Jeff Hardy refused Dixie's offer. What happened after that was that Dixie Carter came out and basically told off Jeff Hardy. She told off Jeff Hardy. And it really came back really well. I think she was a little bit more believable as a heel throughout that part of the show. And the stuff she was saying as well has a little bit of truth to it as well. About Jeff Hardy. Here on TNA, Dixie is the reason why Jeff Hardy is on the show. Like how she was going back and forth when AJ Styles cut that pipe bomb a few months ago. How Dixie Carter came back with AJ was basically the same thing was how Dixie Carter came back from Jeff Hardy's promo before the main event. So I thought, that part was really, really thought up, because what was going through my mind when Jeff Hardy refused Dixie's offer is Magnus turning heel? And they're hinting it. They keep hinting it. They have more focus on Jeff Hardy and his story about, his explanation. And there's less focus on Magnus about his side of the whole story. There's two sides to every story. There's Jeff Hardy's story and there's Magnus' story. And they've had more focus on Jeff Hardy than they did with Magnus. And I think that was really smart as well, because the execution at the end was great. And I'll tell you why. Now, before I even get to that, the match itself was absolutely great. I think this was the match of the night. And the reason why I say that is because that was a good pacing match. And sometimes when you're in the ring with a guy like Jeff Hardy, who always puts on a good show for the fans, it's really hard to be the other guy that's in the ring with Jeff Hardy. And I think Magnus actually done a pretty good job doing that. Throughout that match, there was a moment where Jeff Hardy done this split-legged thing off the ropes and landing on Magnus, gaining that reaction from the fans. That was awesome. And then later we saw Jeff Hardy go up on the top of that steel cage and just whispered in the wind, dropped on Magnus. And if you noticed, his leg hit Magnus' head. I was like, ow. And that was a great moment. There were a lot of great spots in that match. Pay-per-view quality. And what happened after that was that we saw EC3. Well, not after that, but, throughout this, steel cage match, there were a few things I noticed. One was Magnus. When Jeremy Borash introduced Magnus, you hear the audience, and there's boos in the audience. So that's a sign of something waiting to happen after this match was over, I think, in my opinion. And there was also a moment where Jeff Hardy was going out of the camera hole. And that was interesting because, you saw that exposed. And when Jeff Hardy was going out, climbing up the cage on one end, you saw Magnus go out the other end on top. But if you notice where that hole was, the hole was right at the stage and the ramp. Wouldn't it make more sense if Magnus went through the hole so he wouldn't have to climb because Jeff Hardy is already up there? Little nitpicky things, as well as the match itself, where you saw the ladder and the world title, there's the cage in the ring. If someone came out, wouldn't they just want to climb up the ladder, grab the title, and not, and not go through the steel cage match? Something to think about. But overall, I thought, this main event was absolutely great. And we saw EC3 show up, and I'm wondering why he's there. What's his role in this whole deal in this main event? What happened was that when Magnus was climbing out, EC3 tried to cost him the match, and Jeff Hardy came out the other end and basically said, I'm not going to let this happen. I'm going to do the honorable thing and take out EC3. He hit him with the twist of fate, and he goes up to the stage, walks up the ramp. He meets Dixie Carter. And there's a little exchange there, and then he spits in Dixie's face, goes to climb up the ladder, and then out comes Rockstar Spud. Pushes Jeff Hardy off the ladder, and Hardy lands horrible. Oh, that was a terrible way to land head first on the ramp. Just watch that in slow motion. I will watch that over and over and get a more reaction to it. That just looked bad. And even though that spot really looked bad, it also looked good in the same time. It's really it's really hard to explain. You have to watch it to know what I'm talking about. And after that, Magnus came up, climbed the ladder, grabbed the world title. And after that, we see that last image, the last couple of images you see is Magnus sticking it to the audience. And this is where the little things matter. You hear the boos when Magnus was introduced. You had him climb the ladder, grab the title. He saw that opportunity when Jeff Hardy was knocked out from the ladder. Climbed up, grabbed the title. He's the winner. He sticks it to the fans and says, "Ha ha, I'm the world champion now. Nothing you can do about it." And I thought that was a great execution of a heel turn. And him standing there with Dixie Carter looked great. And when we saw EC3 clapping, you notice he's kind of like, good for you, Magnus. That should be me. Good for you. Just the way EC3 sold that last image on TNA was absolutely great. Magnus executed a great heel turn, and I thought overall TNA's final resolution was a thumbs up show. What did you think of Final Resolution last night on Impact Wrestling? Comment below and let me know. You can also follow MRB Wrestling Reviews on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And to a final message to all you MRBers watching, get plenty of rest and always do your best.